This may not be a topic that you want to address, and shall I close this?
Yes, please.
This may not be a topic you want to address at any great length. But I did think that it might be that it was something that I was interested in, and I read a book. Well, I found a book that I had read years ago in the library at Chautauqua, and I reread a section that I thought I had remembered correctly. It's called Silent Music, and it's by a man named Johnson, who was a professor who taught at the University of Tokyo. But he was American, and he was a clergy also, and I think Episcopalian, and he taught. And he was involved in this research project at the University of Tokyo back when they were studying biofeedback and brain rhythms. And they identified 4 brain waves, which they called alpha, beta, delta, and theta.
Yes.
And delta is the main wave when you're asleep, and theta is the main wave that takes place when you're dreaming. During your waking state, most people have beta waves almost constantly. It's the wave in which people are thinking. But the reason I wanted to study is because alpha waves began to appear when people would pray, and so they got people from different religious traditions, Buddhism and Hinduism and Shinto and so forth, Christianity, and they would run these tests on them, would hook up their heads and but they began to associate the alpha wave with certain kinds of mental states, and in one case, I thought one of the most interesting cases that they brought up, a Zen teacher was brought in his class, and he was asked to rank them in the order of their development.
Yes.
And then they hooked them up to these brainwave machines, and the same ranking appeared in terms of the amount of alpha waves they would produce. and the Zen teacher, when he would meditate, he would produce very high volume alpha waves. But even one of the most interesting aspects of that is that those of the monastic tradition, when they would meditate, after a while in meditation, they were producing these alpha waves, they would begin producing trailings of theta waves, which is the dream wave.
Yes.
But they weren't asleep, they were wide awake. And when asked about what was going on, they said, are you having a dream? And they said, well, it's not a dream. It's like a dream, but it's far more detailed and intense. and that was all I got. That was all that was spoken of in this book. But I'm always fascinated when science takes a look at religious matters.
Yes.
And comes up with something that they find puzzling, but I find it intriguing. Not that it proves anything, or not that it demonstrates anything conclusively, but it's very thought-provoking, and I begin to think this idea of enlightenment or change, changes that take place in the people who pursue this relationship with the transcendent is recordable on little machines.
Yes.
And for what it means, I don't know. But they said that even the groups that you think wouldn't work out very well, such as Southern Baptists and Pentecostals, they produced alpha waves when being tested, but they had to walk around and sing hymns before they could do it, and so they tended to pull the wires out of the equipment, and so they didn't like them to come in as often as the other quieter traditions. I thought that was quite amusing. And I certainly don't mean to be reductionist about this, saying, well, if you got a biofeedback machine and learned how to produce alpha waves, you'd just be you'd suddenly become a Buddha or something. I don't mean that. That's certainly not what I think the story is saying. But it raises for me the whole question of those in our histories of our traditions who clearly have shifted to a different place in their perception and their awareness, and in their heart, and in their whole being.
Oh, that's absolutely true. First of all, I'm completely out of this whole discussion in the sense that I have no technical ability to evaluate this situation. But I could tell you this, that each one of us carries within ourselves the way of sending out waves of something that's characteristically ours, that's different from anybody else. It has. This is why, for instance, dogs pick up certain. They say they pick up smells, but who knows what they pick up? But they certainly pick up something about someone that they, in their own way, identify as being associated with that particular person, and they go after these waves or these smells and locate or apprehend or identify that particular person.
Well, that's right, isn't it?
And so it is well known that when we meet other people, we are immediately either attracted or indifferent or repulsed.
Yes.
And
immediately,
and that certainly has to do with something that you are talking about. Each one of us is a repository of energy of its own kind that immediately makes you aware that this person is intellectually or religiously or psychologically gifted or attractive or not instructive.
Mm.
During the Middle Ages, there was big discussion within the Greek-speaking church about energies of God, and these energies are classified, and I'm not a particular student of that to enlighten you deeply, but there are energies which are peculiar to God, or energies. They constantly talk about energies, and there are two kinds of energies. There are those energies which are not created because they appertain to God. They are not created, but they are energies, Bob, which are peculiar to the divine being.
So they're pre-existent.
Pre-existent, that's right.
Yeah.
But there are energies which are created,
Okay.
which are called into action outside of God. The way that they are talking about these things are created and not created energies.
Oh, I see.
They're created and not created energies.
Oh, I see.
Now, what does that mean? Not created energies are, I assume, the God in Himself, for Himself, by Himself.
Yeah.
And God lives in His own sanctity. That's how sanctity being that which is particular to the identity of that being. We speak about certain people are saints, and this is the world in which that being or that person blessing himself, which is he or she as he is within himself. And there are and these are uncreated energies in the sense that these cannot be communicated. These cannot be communicated, but the very fact that we are aware of that being, because that being makes us aware of his world, that something is a mystery, as something that we cannot impose upon. But we are aware of them.
Yes.
But there are energies which are sent out outside of God, and created energies. These are the energies by means of which God calls into the being, the world outside of Himself. And these are created energies, and many people make a mistake. People who are called pantheists, Pantheists are people, Bob, who think, who are aware of these energies out there, and they consider them to be God.
Yes, yes.
But they are not God. And they are an outflow of God, and so the conflict between Christianity and paganism was that the pagans took these, we call it animism.
Yes.
So they took these animistic energies, and I saw it in Africa, for instance, before an African, or for that matter, an American Indian cuts the tree, he prays to it.
Oh.
Because he's aware of these energies, and he's afraid that these energies might take revenge on him.
I see.
And he offers it libation, or what is the word that I'm looking at? Oh, he wants to pacify it, or
appease it.
Appease it, yes.
Yes.
And therefore Christianity and paganism clashed on the interpretation of these created and not created energies, although they were not talking about it, except the Christians said, yes, this is sacred. These energies, created energies, they are sacred, but they are not the holy.
Okay.
There's difference between the holy and sacred.
That's good.
Sacred is both that which is manifestation of, or created or called out into creating, say, the universe and all that there is. But these are they are sacred, they are divine, but they are not God.
Yes, I see.
And so the conflict, to get close to what I know something about it,
okay,
because I saw the conflict of Christianity, paganism.
Yes.
And
right.
The conflict between Christianity and paganism was on the interpretation of the world, and the interpretation of the mystery behind the world.
Okay. Yeah.
And so Christians accused pagans of idolatry, substituting for God that what He has created, and say, this is it, this is God. And the Christians said, no, that's God's creation, but God's creation is not God. God's creation is manifestation of God outside of Himself. And this manifestation of God outside of Himself is sacred. It should be treated with great respect as an overflow of the divine. But
it strikes me that there might be a modern version, a civilized version of paganism in that case.
Oh, indeed. Oh, this is a perennial. This is look for instance, these people who are fascinated about marvelous and the beauty of the universe, and so on. These and they are in awe of it, and say Well, we see God,
I see.
but
Interesting.
God cannot be seen, but He only as He is. But God can be seen in His creative acts, in these created energies, and the two are two different realms.
Yes.
And because there are two different realms, there are people who are very much respectful and look, for instance, how people care about trees and animals and because they see the sacredness, but they really have no contact with God as He Himself, you see.
Yes, I see.
And so...
You see people interested in the whales these
yes,
days, and
yes,
in their singing,
yes,
in their mystery.
You see, they are interested in created energies of God, who is the substitute for God Himself. And that doesn't, although God is hidden, God has created the universe and all that it's seen, but His creation is not Himself.
Right.
But that does not mean that we cannot see God, but we can discern God.
Yes, I see.
And we discern God by entering, the word is mystically, but that means there is something hidden in us, which is of Him, that we call it a soul, which somehow agnostics spoke about this, which is aware of God as a mystery, and we communicate with that mystery by plunging inside ourselves, chiefly through prayer, whereby the Spirit of God and God's Spirit in us reverberate or respond to
Resonation.
Resonate.
Yeah.
Resonate is better than reverberate. Resonate to each other, and people have located this mystery that resonates or enters into communion with God, with the thing that we call soul. And that's why soul has been always talked. Now, of course, with our soul, we have turned soul into psychology.
Yes.
But the soul and psychology are in the soul in the classical sense, and the soul in the modern psychological sense. They are different things.
Yes, I'm sure.
They are different. They are different things because these soul, the psychologists, talk about could be quantified, characterized, measured, manipulated, and so on. But the soul, in the classical sense, this divine deposit in ourselves is only it's not accessible to the world.
Yes.
Except the world may notice that there is something very special about St. Francis or Bob Coalson.
That's interesting that you should talk about that way, because one thinks of saints as
Yes.
as being out there in the world, or involved in, compassionately involved in the world.
And they are, because more you are near to God, more you create these helpful, creative energies. But the secret of it is they are not in it. That's byproduct of who they are.
I see.
But their real selves are not so much there to transform the world, but they are out there to enter into the sacred place, which is life of God, Spirit of God. But being who they are, the consequences of this status, being related to God, they do out and kill people and create miracles.
Yes, I see.
But and Jesus did that, and they said, "Oh, wonderful Messiah," he said, "I am doing this to help you, but let's help God."
Yes, yes.
I'm not. And he said, "Don't talk about it, please." You remember?
Yeah.
And but he, being who he was, and he said, "You are cheapening when you made display of these things."
Yes. Sure.
You
I
see,
see, yeah.
there is nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing embarrassing to a good person that when you try to make out of something that genuinely from them, to say that's them. They are more than you say they are.
See. Oh, I see. I've never thought about it that way at all. But you're
Yeah,
absolutely right.
but that's so.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so to come back to these waves, and which I not being able to respond to these wave characteristics.
Right.
I went to say that these waves are connected with what previously they talked about divine energies,
Yes, that's
created and uncreated.
Exactly, I see.
And so I put it.
The interesting thing about the alpha wave is that it once specific kinds of thoughts are pushed at the person, are introduced to the person, then the alpha waves tend to kind of go away, and the beta waves come on to deal with these specific things.
Yes.
But
you see, the beta waves deals with the world as it is.
Yes. So this fits in with your picture.
And as a matter of fact, the beta waves are annoyed about alpha waves because they are confusing them.
Yes, that's right.
Beta waves, as I understand it from big conversation, they are dealing with practical, creaturely world,
right.
As it, and the alpha waves in one sense, the better waves are trivial to them.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Trivial to them, and they are trying to, for instance, one of the ways to interpret these, somebody who is musically minded, but when he is trying to deal with the impact of I speak as an ignorant person, but when they are trying to somehow to control or to marshal or to give some shape to these musical waves. You see, they are responding to the music of the creatures of the created world.
Yes.
But the great musicians say that's for kids. They are trying to
music of the spheres.
Music, transcendent, transcendent
sure.
music, and
marvelous.
I heard something interesting this morning on that subject. There was a conductor, and there was some musician in out there, and somehow the conductor and these musicians were on the different wavelengths, and the conductor said, "I'm here," and the other said, "I'm here," responding to the conductor, that he sees that the two are there, but they say, "I'm here and you are there, but where is Beethoven?"
Well, where's Beethoven?
Yes. You see, they.
Yeah.
You see, they. What I was trying to say by using this analogy or this picture about the music. You see talking about these energies, some of these energies respond to the world out there.
Yes.
The healers, the preachers, but the saints they are aware of those things, but really there's something much higher that they see or they feel or they want to reach beyond that.
Yes.
And that is the trivial example of what we are talking about. Premises in logic, the position, the idea, the concept which you espouse as a way of approaching something.
Yes.
But in England, premises are the landmarks on which these are our premises. Doris Woodruff had our premises, this our yard and our yard.
I see, yes, I see.
And there was an English wit called Sidney Smith, and he was walking down, he was dean of St. Paul's Cathedral, walking down the street with a friend, and he saw two women arguing across the street. And he said, those two women will never agree because they argue from different premises.
Oh, very good. Very, very, very clever.
And
yeah.
so Clark Williams and Charles Ashanin will never meet because we argue from different. We are committed to the different premises.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, well, we are committed to the different position from which we view the world.
Yeah.
You see.
Yeah.
I mentioned this.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect.
But the reason for that, the world that the scientists see, the ordinary people see, you see, Bob, this is all due to the fact that that religious people and secular people assess the world, they will never come together because
different premises.
Different, they are placed, they are interested, they focus, or they see the mystery of life in the world differently.
I see. Yeah.
And because of that, they can't get together. And the reason, what happens, they create annoyance, and they start compelling the other to see the world as the other wants to see it. You see. And that's why the pagans in the Roman Empire and Christians, because is something more concrete, because Christians and their non-Christian counterparts saw religion differently.
Yeah.
And because they saw religion differently, they annoyed each other, and because the first of all, supposedly Christians are pacifists,
right,
and the others were not pacifists,
right,
because the religion was matter of the state,
yes,
and the Christians, it was a matter of personal commitment.
Sure.
And so the state has a power over the individuals and says, no, it has to be my way.
Yes.
And so, and this goes on and on and on.
What you said reminded me, what you said about the saints reminded me of St. Francis. I had to make a presentation on him, and I got some books from the library, and most of it was hagiography of a very simple sort. But there was a couple of books in which they attempted to really seriously deal with this person and his life.
And his charisma, you see.
Yes, and the book, and one case where he started developing the stigmata on his
Yes.
hands, he was quite self-conscious of it, and he didn't want anyone to see it, and he would pull the sleeves down over his hands so no one could see it.
Yes, because the reason why you see religious charlatan would say, look.
Yes, look what I have, yes.
Look what I have. But because he wanted to hide that people should not think that he's a Christ.
Yes, yes. So I think that it's a wonderful, it seems to confirm for me what you were saying about this person who dwells in a different place within himself.
Yes, the different
and communicates, and communicates with.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, such people always, very often in the life of Jesus, although he came into the world to make an impact on it, to initiate a group of people about the mystery of that was in him and through him. But very often he hid himself.
Yes, oh, that's right, I see.
He hid himself because the Jews wanted to make him a king.
Yes.
If we had somebody of this, then he could lead to smash Romans.
Yeah, sure.
With his,
That's good.
with his charisma, because there was in the 4th century, well known to the French. I think he was from the Dacia, from the present, well, the Romania, because Romanians are that's why they are called Romanians, these Romans. They were the Roman soldiers who were given that part of the country as a sort of colony for their services.
I see.
So that's why they are called Romanians.
I did not know that. Oh.
Well, now you know it.
Now I know, that's great.
But anyway, he was a military man. And this is the man who saw a beggar in Chile, and he took his sword and cut half of his coat.
Cape. Yeah.
And gave it. Anyway,
What was his name?
Saint Martin of Tours.
Of course.
Saint Martin of Tours.
Wonderful.
And this Saint Martin of Tours that was the time when the pagans still, it was a better time for Christians, because the empire is, said capitulated to Christians, but that does not mean everybody was all the same.
No.
And they bugged Christians. They attacked them. But when he prayed, these people who were coming up against the Christians, they couldn't move.
Oh, really?
They couldn't move because you see, that was Jesus. You see, the sea or the lake was antiquated water. So what I'm saying, those people who live within the realms of uncreated energies, so who are in communion with uncreated energies, they acquire the power of the uncreated energy and could control the created energies.
I see, yes, of course.
These moving.
Yes. Yeah, I was reading about Paul on the road when he's struck blind, and there's a lot of interesting paintings of Paul.
Yes.
And I've often wondered what it must have been going on in him, because he's this type of person, and then instantly.
Yes, and because he's caught up in this unmovable position, helplessness.
Yes, he's just.
And
you can't see.
There was a cartoon in the Indianapolis Star. It was Dan Quayle.
Dan Quayle.
And vehicle. And he was explaining why he was derailed. And there was the kind in this armored car with the horns of the Texan
George W. Bush.
yes, of Texas cattle.
I
You
see.
know. And he said, and it suddenly struck me.
It suddenly struck me.
Yes. It suddenly struck me. So that's how he explains how he was derailed. So anyway, while I was not able to discuss intelligently or scientifically the things that you introduced, we did enter into something very relevant